Hey everyone, finish watching the next Mystic Force episode, Broken Spell Part 2. The Knight Korag attacks the Rangers. Xander tries to talk to him, but Korag summons a massive Zord and fuses with it to become a centaur. Udana morphs and grows giant. Korag strikes Udana and she shrinks back to normal. Korag takes her staff away and leaves. Mordecon demands Korag hand over Udana's staff. He refuses. We learn some convoluted stuff here. Mordecon is so powerful he can only be released from the underworld with a powerful spell. It kind of looks like he could just climb out of it, but whatever. The Rangers regroup at Root Core. Udana returns their wands. Xander says walking around with wands may appear strange. Udana disguises the wands as cell phones. She tells them to go back to their normal lives and keep secret what they've seen. The Rangers find a portal in a tree that leads back to the record shop. Madison sees Nick working on his bike. She talks with him, and he tells her a little about his family. She wants him to stay and join the team, but Nick is still hesitant. Claire and Udana watch through a magic crystal ball. Claire was sure Nick would be the fifth warrior she saw in the Xenotome. In the underworld, Mordecon gives new orders to Korag. Udana goes to Nick to convince him to stay. Nick insists he isn't the right person. Udana then questions why he was the only one to help the old man from before. Nick asks how she knew about that, and Udana reveals that she was the old man, a magic disguise. They see the Rangers rush off, but Nick is still not sure of himself. Udana waves her wand and fixes his bike, giving him a choice to either stay or leave. The Rangers go back into the woods and find themselves garbed in fancy cloaks. They fight through an army of Hidiacs and morph for the first time. They each wield the powers of nature's elements. Korag is their next challenge. Nick sees a vision of the Rangers. They're in danger. He joins them and fights back against Korag. Red light surrounds Nick and he gains a cloak and morpher like the others. He morphs into the Red Ranger. He channels Connor McKnight and turns a Hidiac into a soccer ball. The other Rangers disappear for a little while so Nick can have the spotlight. They show back up to congratulate Nick and hear Korag vow revenge. Back in the record shop, Nick hangs out with his new team. They're using their newly acquired magic abilities to clean up the shop. A girl walks in and asks Nick for help. He tries to explain that he doesn't work there, but Toby hires him on the spot and tells him to help the customer. This is a really fun, if at times a little silly, second episode. Nick's resistance to joining the team gets a little repetitive, but once he does, it's a pretty big and exciting moment. There's a lot of stuff thrown at the audience here. I think the plot could stand to slow down a little sometimes and let the characters breathe. The only really slow moment is when Madison talks to Nick. It's awkward and doesn't get a payoff. I thought Nick would tell Madison at the end that he should have listened to her and we'd see the start of a budding romance, but they don't get any significant interaction after their first conversation. Udana loses her staff, the source of her powers. It seems like this should be a bigger deal. It's her morpher, after all. Any past episode would put way more focus on retrieving it. Udana can grow giant. Does that imply she doesn't have a Zord? What about the other Rangers? Do they get Zords, or will they grow giant too, or maybe both? More intriguing than the Rangers' lack of Zords is Korag having one. Is he a former Ranger corrupted by Mordecon or the Master? Udana remarks that he looks familiar, and he tells her the same. Some very interesting mysteries being set up here. We learn that Mordecon is too powerful to leave the underworld. How much you want to bet he goes out like a punk super easy? This is such a dumb point. I think there could have easily been a better reason for him to remain in the underworld. Maybe he's too weak after all these years. He does have a ton of cyborg parts, presumably intended to keep him alive. Maybe he possesses some power that the villains don't want to risk losing. I don't know. Something other than he's a non-compatible format that requires an adapter. The villains really don't get much in the way of character. Mordecon is still just a loud, growly monster. Necroli hisses that Korag can't be trusted, and Korag is just kind of a jerk. Udana's disguise as the old man has some interesting trivia associated with it. The actor that plays the old man is Bill Johnson. He was in an episode of Hercules: The Legendary Journeys. He once again plays an old man that turns out to just be a disguise of a magic being. This time, he's really Zeus. I find it funny that two roles of his in two different fantasy shows were so similar. I like Toby. He's a fun character with his quirky mannerisms. Toby hires Nick for the record shop, and it seems like he already has more than enough employees. It's a small store, even having more than 3 people seems excessive. Maybe Toby is independently wealthy. I don't care for Nick and all the Rangers having the same job. I think they should have been more split up, maybe have them working at different places. It's probably just a budgetary thing. They all conveniently work at the same place because it's only one set to deal with. One more thing, several characters refer to 5 Rangers, like Udana wasn't a Ranger. I feel like this could have been less awkward if instead of referring to 5 over and over again, they instead just say Red Ranger. Mystic Force starts off with a fast-paced two-parter. The Rangers are all introduced, we know who all the villains are, and everything seems to have fallen into place pretty quickly. We just have the Zords to introduce, and the status quo should be established. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.